Forwarding. But on my screen, still it's still just in the black box with the white screen circle.
Sounds like this.
Yeah, usually I can see.
It's working now, Jen.
Is it on your
My phone it is. I just
on your phone? It's working now. She says it's working on her phone.
the background noise.
Okay. All right.
Scott Rogers
has left the meeting.
All right. Sounds good. So I can't see it, but it looks like it's working.
Okay. All right. Guess we have the live stream back working again. So now getting back approval of the agenda. We'll need to call the
We called the roll for approval agenda. We had 14 yes.
14. Okay, good. We'll then move to members of the public wishing to be heard. Member of the public and you wish to be heard, if you could announce yourself at this time and the schedule. You'll each have 5 minutes to speak. Any members of the public wishing to be heard?
Hi there, this is Hannah Cole.
Okay. So we got Anna Cole. Any other members of the public wishing to be heard? Hearing none, then Hannah, the floor is yours for the next 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Hannah Cole, and I live in the Holcomb area. Tiny houses on wheels have been a topic of conversation recently, and I'm addressing you this evening to ask my county officials to consider accessory dwelling units. I'm suggesting we give our community members the option to host a tiny house in their backyard, allowing one tiny house on wheels per residential lot in specific areas that the county delegates. We could require that those wishing to host a tiny house on their property must install a campsite-style hookup for utilities, and the tiny houses must meet specific safety standards. Whatever the details, here are what accessory dwelling units in our county would look like. A daughter is just steps away from her frail, aging mother in her backyard, while still giving her the dignity to live on her own. A college graduate rents a tiny home because it's a fraction of the cost of an apartment.
Has joined the meeting.
To pay off his crushing student loans and start off a little ahead in life. A couple that was once house poor, working 2 jobs they hated yet needed to pay the bills, now pulls into their driveway just before noon to eat lunch together. Because of their tiny house lifestyle, they can now afford to pursue their passion and have a flexible schedule, spending life living. A family struggling to make ends meet, living paycheck to paycheck, now earns $300 of passive income hosting a tiny house, giving them the break they've needed to get ahead. Accessory dwelling units put citizens in a position to put newfound funds back into the economy and increase their quality of life, and addresses the housing shortage. I really see Chippewa County becoming a frontrunner in the Chippewa Valley for tiny house living. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll then move on to the consent agenda. At this time, I will ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
This is Supervisor Hauser.
Yes.
I'm not sure how to do this, but point number 4, yes, I would be looking for some more background or report as to the process and the outcome of how we reached that supervisory position. I'm not opposed to it. I'm just looking for background.
I believe we'd have to have a motion to pull that out. of the consent agenda and vote on it as a separate item then. So if you wanted to make that motion, you could do that.
Yes, I'll make that motion to pull that item out as a separate agenda item.
Okay, is there?
Supervisor Hunt, second.
Okay, I didn't catch the name of the last supervisor for the second.
Supervisor Hunt.
Hunt? Okay.
Before we go,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
number 4 and number 5 would have to go together, or the number 5 would have to be pulled separately too.
Right. We would have to, in order to, we'd have to pull number 4 and number 5, not just number 5. So Supervisor Hauser, do you want to change your motion to 4 and 5?
Yes. Yes, numbers 4 and 5, and any other appointments that might come into play there as well.
No, we got that wrong.
Because that might influence number 8
It's 5.
or number 9 for that matter, I guess.
It's county administrator appointment.
But then there'd also be
Okay.
number 9 too, right?
No. No, because those are current county board supervisors.
Right, right.
The planning and building.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah, that's for
Yeah.
chair. Yeah.
So the administrator appointments for airport commission
So
would
4 and
also
5.
have to be pulled. Okay, so 4 and 5, so that motion has been amended then or changed by Mr. Hauser. Supervisor Hunt, are you still a second on that motion?
Yes, I am good with the change.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Okay, so those two items are pulled, and so then we have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the pulling of those two to be voted on separately.
Supervisor Thornton, motion to approve.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'm not sure what we're doing yet. I'm sorry.
We're voting on the consent agenda except for the two that we have pulled, and we'll vote on separately.
Isn't that what Supervisor Hauser and Supervisor Hunt?
No, now we're doing the rest of the.
We got to vote on that.
We have a motion and a second
Okay, we got a
on the
motion
floor.
on the floor. Okay, let's back up here. We have,
That was a motion to amend.
we have the motion to amend, and so we need to do a roll call vote on that. This lengthy agenda, trying to get things done too quick here. So then we'd call the vote on Mr. Motion.
Any discussion?
Well, any discussion, any further discussion?
Yeah, this is Supervisor Hall. I'm still confused exactly what we're voting on. Are we voting to approve the consent agenda without those two items? Or are we voting just to amend that and then vote to approve the consent agenda? This is confusing.
We're voting on to pull those from the agenda and act upon them, and then we will move on from there. So what's on the floor right now is the motion to pull those. So that would be,
Just to pull them, or are they voting to approve 4 and 5?
well, we got to have a motion to approve pulling it first, and then we have to have a motion to, approve whatever. So did that answer your question, Supervisor Hall?
If that's what we're voting on, I thought the motion was to approve the consent agenda without those two items. That's what I thought the motion was.
Got to proceed with the first motion first.
Okay, we have a first and a second on the, did we have a first and a second on approval of the consent agenda?
Did, but that's not the motion we're dealing with.
Right, the motion we're dealing with now is to pull those two items.
That's correct.
Okay. So that'll be the issue that we're dealing with, is the motion to pull those two. And so we'll need to.
Sorry.
If,
I didn't think we had a motion to approve the whole consent agenda because we started this discussion before there was a motion, I thought, and then we made the motion. But Never mind.
Great. No, I understand where you're at, but yeah, no, I asked for a motion to approve, and then Supervisor Hauser asked to pull.
Oh.
So the motion on the floor is,
So there's only one motion. Only one motion has been made, and I thought that motion's to approve the consent agenda minus those two items. But
no, it was to pull those two items.
okay.
I asked for that.
Thank you.
That's not what was made for a motion.
Thank you.
So then I will have the clerk call the vote on the motion to pull items 4 and 5 from the consent agenda.
Supervisor Hauser,
Aye.
Supervisor Michelson, Supervisor Michelson, Supervisor Shipman,
Aye.
Supervisor Kervina,
Aye.
Supervisor Eisenhuth, Supervisor Ives,
Aye.
Supervisor Hunt,
Aye.
Supervisor Hull,
Aye.
Supervisor Steele,
Aye.
Supervisor Sikorsky,
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt,
Aye.
Supervisor McMiniman,
No.
Supervisor Thornton,
Aye.
Mr. Chair,
Aye.
Supervisor Michelson,
Supervisor Michelson, are you there yet?
Can you hear me?
Now I can. Yes.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
13 yes, 1 no.
Okay. All right. Approve the rest of the agenda and then take those.
So we make a motion to approve those two
Yeah.
and then discussion?
Well, we've got the motion been made, second, and voted upon. So I guess we'll deal with those two first.
Yes.
So we will deal with these issues. I guess I will start with number 4, County Board appointment, District 15 Supervisor. I know that there's not a lot of information on there. Just to fill in the blanks, we had 4 people who originally applied for District 15. One person pulled out, and so then we had interviews with 3 individuals. And just give it.
But I think you have to.
So anyway, that was the process, and I think I gave that to the executive committee. And so the bottom line is then at this time, we will also need a motion to discuss this item on the floor. To approve.
I'll make a motion to approve 4 and 5 on the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, now we can discuss. So the interview process, myself, Glenn Sikorsky, our vice chair, and Randy Schultz, our administrator, we were on the interview committee. We interviewed the 3 individuals that had applied, and it was a unanimous vote by the committee to appoint Ron McGill, the District 15 supervisor. So I guess if there's any questions, I can entertain those. Any questions?
Supervisor Hauser, I guess that satisfies my curiosity as to the process. Because the last we had, we were looking for an update, and we didn't have that, so I'm satisfied with that answer. And I think this gives Mr. McGill his due separation from all of the other items there. So, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Hearing none, then I will call the vote by the clerk.
Supervisor Sikorsky,
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt,
Aye.
Supervisor McMiniman,
Aye.
Supervisor Thornton,
Aye.
Supervisor Hauser,
Aye.
Supervisor Michelson,
Aye.
Supervisor Shipman,
Aye.
Supervisor Kervina,
Aye.
Supervisor Eisenhuth,
Aye.
Supervisor Ives,
Aye.
Supervisor Hunt,
Aye.
Supervisor Hall,
Aye.
Supervisor Steele,
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Okay, then we will move on to the remainder of the consent agenda. I will seek a motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda.
Supervisor Shipman, so moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
Supervisor McMiniman seconds.
Okay. Any further discussion?
900.
Hearing none, then I will have the clerk call the roll.
Supervisor Shipman,
Aye.
Supervisor Kervina, Supervisor Kervina,
Aye.
Supervisor Eisenhuth,
Aye.
Supervisor Ives,
Aye.
Supervisor Hunt,
Aye.
Supervisor Hall,
Aye.
Supervisor Steele,
Aye.
Supervisor Sikorsky, Supervisor Schmidt,
Aye.
Supervisor McMiniman,
Aye.
Supervisor Thornton,
Aye.
Supervisor Hauser,
Aye.
Supervisor Michelson,
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
14, yes.
Okay, passes unanimously. Okay, then at this time, I will have the clerk administer the oath of office to Mr. McGill.
Mr. McGill, if you would like to stand and raise your right hand. I, Ronald McGill,
I, Ronald McGill,
having been appointed to
having been appointed to
the office of Chippewa County Board Supervisor,
the office of Chippewa County Board Supervisor,
swear that I will support
swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties
and impartially discharge the duties
of said office
of said office
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Anything wrong?
Okay. Well, I will welcome Mr. McGill to the county board and look forward to working with you and the rest of the board members. So,
Thank you.
welcome. Public hearing, the CDBG public hearing.
Should I go ahead and start? This is Craig Johnson.
Are you convening into the public hearing, sir?
Sorry?
You got to convene into the public hearing.
Make a motion to.
No, you just say we're convening in the public hearing
Oh,
for
I
that.
thought I said we're going into public hearing. Okay. We're going into the public hearing, just so you're aware of that. So, Mr. Administrator, you want to?
Yep, thank you. Thanks, Chair. I have Craig Johnson from Regional Planning on the phone, and he'll explain the purpose of this. Craig came to us for this purpose, and he'll explain what this is during the public hearing, and we'll vote on it later. Go ahead, Craig.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Yes, my name's Craig Johnson. As Randy said, I'm with the West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. We're based over in Eau Claire, and we've been working with Chippewa County here on a program that I'm going to tell you about. Chippewa County is submitting a community development block grant application on behalf of a 7-county region in West Central Wisconsin to the Wisconsin Department of Administration to fund a microenterprise grant program, which I'll tell you more about in just a second. Please note that I will be going over some background information on the community development block grant program at first, because that's a requirement of this public hearing that we're having now. I have to do that, so I'll be doing that. And after that, I'll be reviewing some more specific information about the program we're proposing tonight, and we'll also provide the public with an opportunity to offer their input. So, first of all, just to tell you a little bit about the Community Development Block Grant Program, it is a federally funded grant program administered by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. The funds are passed from HUD to the Wisconsin Department of Administration, who's responsible for administering the program at the state level, and it funds a wide variety of different community development projects throughout the state. In terms of the total funds that this program has available, in most years, the state of Wisconsin usually receives approximately $25 million statewide for this program. This year, they've also received some special community development block grant coronavirus funds because of the pandemic. And in that pot of funds, there will be about $16 million in additional funds available for units of government to apply for on top of the $25 million I mentioned a second ago. There are about $16 million in these additional CDBG virus funds available for units of government to apply for, and subsequent rounds of funding are expected to provide almost $28 million in funds, and that's actually the program that this project we're talking about tonight is applying for. There are a number of programs that the Department of Administration administers under the Community Development Block Grant Program. There are 6 programs in all that provide grants to local governments. And these grants, as I said a minute ago, it does fund a wide variety of community development initiatives throughout the state, but they generally benefit low and moderate income households. And generally, they fall into these kind of 6 areas that I referenced a second ago. The first is housing, and that includes housing rehabilitation, home buyer assistance, and special housing projects. It also includes planning projects, public facilities projects, economic development projects, and public utilities for economic development projects, which is sort of when a local government and a business kind of work together on a specific kind of economic development project. And then there are these coronavirus funds that have to be used for to prevent, prepare for, and respond to coronavirus. And examples of the types of projects that can be
Has joined the meeting.
Include business assistance projects, or public service projects, or housing assistance projects, or projects providing human service needs or public health needs. And as I mentioned, that's the program that this project we're talking about is applying for. I just wanted
Has left the meeting.
I just wanted to talk for a minute about some different community development needs. Sort of in light of the coronavirus pandemic, in considering doing an application for this block grant coronavirus funding, a wide variety of projects and needs were considered, including housing, public works, business, and other needs. Recent data from the West Central Wisconsin region indicate significant economic impacts on the business sector from the COVID-19 pandemic, including that 654 businesses have a reported income loss of over $40 million, inventory losses of over $4 million, lost wages and lost productivity of over $4.5 million, and other financial losses of over $7 million. You know, and if these problems are not resolved, small business closures and accompanying job losses and disruption in supply and distribution chains and an overall decrease of the tax base will become exacerbated in the region. So that was a big concern, and sort of, these facts led us to encourage that an application focus on these business needs, to help alleviate the problems I've just kind of identified. At this time, before I get into a discussion of what the particular program we're talking about is, I will just say that if members of the public have input on identified community development needs, they can provide that input during the public input portion of this hearing at the end of the hearing. So there will be the opportunity for the public to do that, as well as to comment on the program itself. So I just want to, as I kind of finish off get into the last part of my presentation here, I just want to tell you a little bit about the program itself that we're applying for now that you've learned a bit about what the Community Development Block Grant Program is about. What we're applying for and is a program that will respond to the COVID-19 pandemic by providing direct financial relief in the form of grants to eligible businesses. This will help to retain these businesses' operations in the West Central Wisconsin region. Overall, there will be 100 grants provided. They'll be $5,000 each, which totals up to $500,000 altogether. And up to $74,750 in additional funds will be provided for running the program. Chippewa County is applying on behalf of a 7-county region in West Central Wisconsin where eligible businesses can apply for the grants. And these counties include Barron, Chippewa, Clark, Dunn, Eau Claire, but not the city of Eau Claire, but the rest of Eau Claire County, as well as Polk and St. Croix counties, those 7 counties. And eligible businesses within that 7-county region can apply for the grants. The organization I work for, the West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, will help administer the program. And this program really complements a lot of the work that the Regional Planning Commission is already doing in these counties, in these 7 counties, including business revolving loan funds in each county, as well as a COVID-19 relief business loan program that's funded by the U.S. Economic Development Administration. The program should be up and running by May. And I'll just also state that there will be no displacement of homes or businesses as a result of the project, and on the contrary, the program will help grow businesses in the region. And with that sort of concludes my presentation and the presentation part of this public hearing. So at this time, the public's invited to provide input regarding the proposed application as I've described it, or other CDBG activities.
Are there any questions from the board?
This is just the public hearing part.
Yeah, I know it's
Just for the public.
okay. At this time, we will close the public hearing, and then we'll go to the reports, County Administrator update. COVID. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I've been given the, obviously, every other month or so. The first slide that we'll look at, page 30 of your packet, is the 2020 COVID-19 relief funding. As you can see, when this first started, what we were told is that all funding was going to end on 12/31 of 20. You'll see on the next slide that will continue, but you can see the utilization. We were able to use almost all the funds available to us, which obviously really helped in COVID pandemic strategy that was, put forth to try and control it as much as we could. So you can kind of see where we used that funding for, and really the key was to try and utilize the funds available to us for our county in order to fight COVID. Especially at the beginning, as you guys know, it was just chaos essentially. So just so proud of our team that public health, IT, HR, facilities. I could go on and on. Every department just worked extremely hard to utilize these funds and utilize them in a proper way that helped our community the most. So that's what we had for 2020. The next slide talks about some of the relief funding for 2021. Obviously, it's talking about vaccination, tracking, tracing, doing investigations, and we'll continue to use those funds for those purposes. There is, of course, another COVID relief bill that they're talking about coming down. Had a WCA conference call on Monday.
Has joined the meeting.
Today. And there is some money in that currently for counties directly. So we'll see how that all kind of washes out when it goes through the state and comes to us. But it is nice to know that we do have some funding available to continue doing what we're doing. Move to the next slide. This we put in originally. It was really to kind of look at the cash analysis. What I've kind of discovered at looking at it over and over from month to month is that it's pretty hard to track from one year to the other. Even taking averages from 18 and 19, there's just so much, there can be a lot of differences depending on how the year is going. So I'm not sure it's helping the county board as much as I hoped it would, just because there can be big changes. DHS, you can see there's quite a bit of change there, and highway really had to do with the wheel tax going away. So hard to compare apples and oranges, but I was hoping it would show that. But we're looking fine in as far as our cash is concerned. And then the next slide, this is our sales tax. If you remember when this first hit, the big concern was sales tax and across the counties and the state. But you can see we're actually up from the previous year, about 1.9, 1.8%. So we'll see how the last 2 months come in. Again, sales tax is always 2 months in the lag, so we'll see what the last November and December does. But it looks like from all the numbers we've seen that we should be fine in our sales tax. We haven't seen a big hit in our levy either, collecting taxes, so haven't seen the hits there. Again, what I've reported in the past has been interest income stumpage has kind of been our big hit. So we did adjust for that for the 2021 budget. And we, as far as we know, we should be fine, but we'll see how these last couple of months come in. And then just giving a update on what we're doing operational. The building will be open on February 15th. Again, we're going, our goal has always been to try and have the best customer service that we can. So we will be opening on February 15th. Employees and staff still will be rotating in and out, but we'll make sure we have enough staff available for customers. That's the key. So, and then we've also designated some parking areas for our vaccine clinics that public health is currently doing. You'll see that out in the parking lot, the big parking lot to the north. And then we do have some parking available for the pharmacy that's on the block to the south of us. They asked if they could get a few stalls, so the sheriff has parking. He had parking in that little lot, and he gave up, I think, 10 spaces for that, and that's what they requested. So it's good to be good neighbors and be able to help people out. Again, just a great job from our staff. I couldn't be prouder of our team throughout this whole process. So any questions?
Okay. Want to move on to department reports?
Sure.
Okay.
So we'll give a capital improvement project update. I'll have Lori Zwiebelhofer, our finance director, give that, and then I'll have a few comments at the end. Lori, if you're on, you can go.
Good evening. So I'll start right away. We're going to be on the page 33 of the packet is where we're starting. The second slide down is going to just give a brief overview of the sales tax and the bonding funding as shown by each year for 2019 through 2021. All right, and then we'll head on over to the next slide, or next page, which is going to be on 34, and we're going to start with 2018 projects. So I wanted just to let you know that I only included the projects from June of 2020 was the last time you guys got an update for the June County Board. And I only updated the ones that were still in progress at that time. So the first one I'll talk about is the courthouse painting. Larry estimates that the total project will be about $112,523, but we are still waiting for the final invoice. Something to note, I wanted to make sure you guys knew, is that I had got this put all together in early January, so we probably have already gotten the invoice, and we probably already paid it, but in order to get it ready for exec and everything, it took time ahead. The next project we would look at is the RMS, or the Spillman project. That is still open. It's still in progress. The go live was back in March of 2019. The Sheriff's Department and Spillman are working on 3 modules yet to complete. Any questions on 2018 projects? Hearing none, I'll move on. We're going to be on page 34, second slide. Here are the 2019 projects, which were still in progress as of our last update in June. And a lot of these are just the normal projects, so I'll probably skip over them unless you want to go back and talk about them. That's not a problem. The first project I have on my list to talk about is the Replacement County Forest Flowage project. That project ended up being a culvert over Burke Creek. The next project was the county land acquisition. Land conservation, they ended up purchasing some land from the UWEC Foundation. And the 2019 Park Master Plan, that ended up being where we installed a bathroom in Otter Creek. It's like a green toilet system. I'm sure Larry could give you a lot more information on that if you would request it. Is there any questions about the 2019 projects that you see in front of you? All right. So now we're going to start on the 2020 projects. That's going to be on the first slide on page 35. The first project we'll talk about is the courthouse fire system standpipe. As of the time when I did this, we were still waiting on the final invoices. The project was completed in late December. The next project is the resurface the 2002 jail showers. This project will be done in conjunction with the 2021 shower project. It was significant. It was really reduced if we put those 2 projects together, because those projects do expect to be completed at the end of this month. The Morris Erickson bathroom project was part of that Park Master Plan. It's just like Otter Creek. It was a green toilet system. I believe it's really close to being done. They just have a few things to do with the floors, I believe. The next project is the 2002 jail chiller. This project came in approximately $321,000 under budget. Remember, with Resolution 34-20, we retransferred the $100,000 to the county clerk and the treasurer remodel project. The remaining $221,000 will be transferred back to the lapsing general fund account. If you recall, the way that project was funded was through year-end dollars from 2018. The next project is going to be that security plan for the treasurer and clerk project. Originally the project was estimated to be approximately $400,000. But remember, with that resolution I just talked about last time, for the last project with the 34-20, we transferred that $100,000 from the jail chiller to this project. So now this project will have $500,000 available. And this project did start, if anybody had been in the courthouse recently, it started in mid-November. I know that there's been some holdbacks on getting the project started with the pandemic, but I believe that they are working now, and so hopefully it won't be too far behind schedule. The last project that I have on this slide is the snowmobile bridge. This is the Roger Creek Bridge project. The work is completed, but we are waiting for the finalization and the invoice. Does anybody have any questions on that first slide of projects?
Any questions?
All right. So the second slide on page 35 is the first one I'll talk about is the car to access ADA door. I know that Larry had said that those projects are going to be starting in the next couple of months. So no worries, they are still starting. The other projects that are on there were the normal projects, nothing odd, you know, the IT equipment and everything. Is there any questions on those projects? All right. Hearing none, we'll go over to page 36, the first slide. This is just a continuation of 2020 projects. The first one we'll talk about is the standardized recycling containers. It was budgeted for $50,000. Those containers were delivered in mid-December, and I know that we were waiting for the final invoice on those also. The next project that was open was the jail washer dryer project. We anticipate that this project will be overspent. Many of the reasons have to do with the jail inspection requirements, which exceed the normal building requirements. Larry is still working with the Department of Corrections inspector to work out options to help bring down the cost. So further updates will be coming yet. Any questions on 2020 projects?
Any questions?
All righty. I'll start on page 36, the second slide. We're going to start the 2021 projects. I'm not really going to go through many of these projects because all these projects were discussed last year when you were approved them during the resolutions back in June. And most of these projects are really in the very beginning stages with architect and engineering, if needed or not yet started at all. So just so you realize that it's so early in the game for us. The project that I would say, which is the furthest, if you remember, we talked about the 2020 shower project. So that 2021 Huber shower project, remember that's being done in conjunction with the 2020 project, so we were able to get it done cheaper when they were combined. Any questions on any 2021 projects that you see? Because if you go on to page 37, you'll see we have many 2021 projects. Anybody have questions on any of them?
Any questions? Okay.
Okay. So what we would have to do is go down to the second slide on page 38. We're going to talk just briefly about the radio tower project. And I put this in a slide by itself because, as you can see, we started back in 2012 on this radio tower project, and it's still going through 2021. So if you look at the total available for the project, it's $5,145,887. If you recall, that is part of reduced because of the transfer of the bonding funds with Resolution 39-20. If you recall, that $2.2 million was funded with year-end funds. There's the sales tax funding of $1.3 million, and the bonds that we ended up using, the bonding funds, were the $1,645,887. As of right now, the total expenses for the project have been $2,157,319 since 2012. We anticipate that the total project cost will be estimated around the $3.7 million. The estimated completion date is set for late October of this year. I know I had last talked to Dennis, and he said that we were still waiting for microwave equipment, which was back ordered for many months, but he had heard that it should be delivered by the end of this month. So hopefully we'll get some more progress going on that project. Any questions on the radio tower project? All right, the next page is going to be the first slide on page 39. This is just a summary. The 2022 through 2026 CIP guidelines and forms were sent to the department heads in early December. The county administrator will bring the recommended 2022 through 2026 CIP plan to the executive committee and county board for consideration. And if you recall, that's when we have all those resolutions too. So make sure to let us know if you have any questions. Any questions on what I've given you tonight?
Any questions?
Well, thank you for your attention.
Yeah, I guess just in closing, as you can see, we have a lot of projects, especially for 2021, 2020. We're trying to close those out too. And for 2022, we're looking at limiting how many projects facilities can do. If you guys know Larry, he likes to get things done, and he doesn't like to say no to people. So I think I'm going to have to step in and just back down how much they're going to be able to do. No fault of their own, just with the delays and things that have happened over this last year. We're kind of falling behind, and it gets difficult, when you want to try and get something done, it gets frustrating if you can't get it done. And we don't make promises to people we keep. So we'll be looking at limiting those. I would like to say we're going to eliminate all of them for that department, but there may be something we have to do that we don't have control over. But just so when you see it come through your committees and come to the county board, you're going to see fewer projects for facilities than what you probably normally have seen. So just let you guys know and give you a heads up on that.
Okay, that's it. Any questions? All righty. We'll go to general reports. Special County Board meeting for February 16th at 6 p.m. Tomorrow.
Larry Ritzinger
has left the meeting.
Tomorrow night, the LCFM committee will be voting a second time on the county forest plan. And a lot of people have been waiting for well over a year for that plan to get finalized. And we had voted on it once, and then the Department of Natural Resources made some changes, so now we have to vote on it a second time. So to expedite this for all the people who are using our county forest, and so we can do this in a timely manner, I'm setting a special county board meeting for February 16th at 6 p.m. so that this board can act on that plan. And it's a 15-year plan, so it's not a small feature. Any questions? Okay, moving on to business items. As business item 08-21, resolution 821. Clerk, read the resolution.
Resolution number 8-21, resolution to authorize the submission of a community development block grant application to develop a microenterprise grant program. Now therefore be it resolved that the county board does hereby approve and authorize the preparation and filing of an application for CDBG-CV funding to establish a microenterprise grant program. And be it further resolved that the county board chair is authorized to sign all necessary documents on behalf of Chippewa County. And be it further resolved that the Economic Development Committee is authorized to take all necessary steps to prepare and file the application for funding under this program in accordance with this resolution, recommended for approval by the Economic Development Committee.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve?
Supervisor McMenamin makes the motion to approve.
Supervisor Shipman. Go ahead.
Okay, we have a tie on the second. Supervisor Thornton, we'll count you as the seconder then this time. Okay, any discussion?
Want me to speak on it?
Yes.
This is Randy Schultz. Chippewa County Administrator. This is what Craig Johnson in the public hearing was just about. I think Craig did an excellent job explaining it, and he is still on the line if you have any questions for either of us.
I do have one question.
Yes, go ahead.
Are we going to equally divide those grants among the county so they don't all end up bunched in one spot?
Yeah, Craig, I guess I'll send that to you. How do they decide who receives the money, I guess is really the question. Are they equally distributed across the 7 counties?
Yeah, it is available for any business, within that any eligible business, I should say, within that 7-county area. It wouldn't be divided equally amongst the counties. It's really set up to be administered kind of on a first-come, first-served basis, basically. So that's sort of the approach that's being taken up to this point. And, so it would be available to any of those businesses that qualify in the region.
I think maybe that begs the question, how do you get the information out to the county?
Yeah, sure. We will be working on the marketing of this program, and specifically working with the county EDCs and other economic development organizations in the area to market it. That'll include like Small Business Development Center and other kind of economic development organizations in the area that are focused on this kind of work as well, helping people to start businesses. That might include the Community Action Program agencies. Also, like Western Dairyland, for example, might be one that we would work with to get out to those low and moderate income business owners. And we'll be looking at certainly working through those organizations, like I mentioned, but also in other ways too. Other things we'll be looking at doing to publicize it is perhaps through shoppers or press releases, postings at the county building, for example. We also we have a couple of newsletters that we work on here. One that the Regional Planning Commission puts out is a newsletter that goes out to all local governments, so those local governments would be provided with that information and able to get it out to their constituents. And then the Regional Business Fund, who we work very closely with, and they're actually housed here, and we staff them. They have a newsletter that goes out to a wide variety, a very large listing of businesses that typically would qualify for these kinds of funds, because those are usually businesses that are maybe they can't get a traditional loan, so they use our resources to kind of help provide a second loan to make a business loan viable, kind of a packet of business loans viable for their business. And so my point is that those are the kinds of constituents that those newsletters would go out to. Those are the kind of folks who would be receiving that information in the newsletters that we put out there. So it would be marketed in those ways, like I said, through the economic development corporations, other economic development organizations, through our newsletters, and then we're looking at things like shoppers as well to get it out as widely as possible.
So is this going to be kind of handled like the Oklahoma land rush? I mean, when the day you open this, it's just going to be a kind of a free-for-all where they all apply and in a certain period of time, I guess I'm asking. I guess I'm afraid that the rural counties are going to kind of get on the end of the line for this one and kind of miss out if they don't act as quickly as maybe or aggressively as other counties.
Well, right. That's a good point. And, we want to as you know, it's still a little time before this program fully rolls out because we haven't applied for the funds as yet formally. So, you know, these are sort of our initial thoughts in terms of developing a marketing program, but those are good things to take into consideration as we roll it out. And you know, obviously, we want to get it out to as widely in the region as possible to address the kind of concerns that you're talking about. Make sure those rural counties know about this, so and have the opportunity, you know, to apply, and you know that's everybody kind of has a fair opportunity to do that. So we're definitely open to accepting as many recommendations on marketing it out as as widely as possible, fairly as possible, so that everybody has the opportunity to participate.
Supervisor Steele, go ahead.
You said that you'd send out this information to the local governments.
Yeah.
What local governments?
Well, it's those that are on our newsletter mailing list. So those would be most cities and villages in the 7-county region, and the counties as well, and the townships.
The word towns in there.
I believe that's right. I don't have the list with me right this moment of everybody that's on there, but as I understand, it's municipal governments in the 7-county region. So,
well, the reason I ask is the area I represent doesn't have a town in it.
Village.
Village.
Okay. Well,
it's an area, 10 miles by 20 miles? That's big for our county. And there's a lot of small businesses there. And
sure.
We had a problem before with rolling out this thing, and I got some concerns with it. I know the federal government just, when they passed out some of this stuff, all the big corporations got on it, and the people that was supposed to get it didn't get anything. So I think you better, I don't know how this, need some kind of, I think part of your presentation should have been how you're going to get this out to the people.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, that's a good reason we're talking about this right now. Certainly, you to roll this out to the towns and make sure they get this information.
Has left the meeting.
And make sure they get this information, and make sure that nobody's missed. And cities and villages, that's easy for them to get that, I guess. But we want to make sure everybody has the opportunity. So we'd be very willing to work with you to make sure the towns get that information as well. Make sure they are on that newsletter list so that they know about the information. And like I said, we're also going to be working with, as I mentioned before, economic development corporations, which are in all 7 counties, and making sure that they know about the program. They also will have a role in reaching out to their business networks, who they are, very involved with and in touch with.
Supervisor Gullickson here. Yes, I heard you say that. So then each of the 7 counties can set their own priority list. Is that accurate? I know you stated that each one of those 7 counties would be responsible for getting this out. So
Kanisker.
Join the meeting.
You say that. So then each of the 7 counties can set their own priority list. Is that accurate? I know you stated that each one of those 7.
No, that's not. No, it won't be. They will. Each of the 7 counties won't decide on who gets the funds. It's just on a, applications are accepted, they're evaluated, and then awarded. But so they won't. The counties won't have a decision, making role with the program. But I guess what I'm saying is we can work with you all and to make sure that the marketing of it rolls out as widely as possible to the towns and to the cities and the villages as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Supervisor Steele.
Who goes through the applications and decides who gets it and who don't?
That will be our staff here will do that, and they will base it. They have to be eligible businesses, and that'll be based on a qualifying criteria. Eligible businesses will include ones with 5 employees or less, 1 or more of whom has to be an owner of the business, and they also have to be of low and moderate income. And so that's just sort of a criteria that is established there according to the rules of the program. And so our staff evaluates that, and if the business qualifies, they would be awarded that grant.
Did that answer your question? Okay.
Okay,
Supervisor Sikorsky, go ahead.
When this is all said and done, would it be possible to get a report on where all these funds went to, what business and where?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? Okay.
Supervisor Hunt.
Yes, go ahead, Supervisor Hunt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to clarify, this all normally goes through economic development before it comes over to the full board, correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question.
Oh, yes. This is Supervisor Hunt, and my question was, I know that this initially came through the Economic Development Committee. When the report comes back through, then again, that'll come through the same route, correct?
Oh, you mean the report? Will the report go through the Economic Development Committee first? Is that what you're asking?
Yep.
I don't know. I'll defer to Randy on that. That's according to your internal protocols and processes, whatever works for you. So I'll defer to Randy on that question.
Yeah, definitely, Supervisor Hunt. We'd bring it to Economic Development as a report and then bring it to the full county board as a report.
Gotcha. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you so much.
Yep.
This is Supervisor Hauser.
Yes, go ahead, Supervisor Hauser.
Just as a reminder, the Chippewa County has representation on the Western Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. So we have some oversight. We have some input for communication purposes. It's not like they operate separate from us.
Any other questions from the board? Hearing no further discussion, I would then have the clerk call the vote. Those in favor say aye.
Supervisor McMiniman.
Aye.
Supervisor Thornton.
Aye.
Supervisor Hauser.
Aye.
Supervisor Michelson.
Aye.
Supervisor Shipman.
Aye.
Supervisor Curvina.
Aye.
Supervisor Eisenhuth. Supervisor Eisenhuth, you're muted. Sorry. You'll need to press *6. Supervisor Ives,
Aye.
Supervisor Hunt,
Aye.
Supervisor Hull,
Aye.
Supervisor Steele,
Aye.
Supervisor Sikorsky,
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt,
Aye.
Mr. Chair,
Aye.
Supervisor Eisenhuth. He's still muted.
If you're trying to answer, you're still muted. Hit *6, and that will unmute you. Are you there, Supervisor Eisenhuth?
I can see he's still on, but he's still on mute. So
Okay, you're still on mute for this vote. If you push *6, we'll be able to hear you if you're trying to respond. Okay, I guess we'll move on. The result?
is 13 yes and
One abstain.
one abstain. I don't know. Yeah, do that, I guess.
Okay. Okay, business item number 2, 09-21, resolution 09-21, and I will have the clerk read that resolution.
Resolution 9-21, resolution to approve a citizen participation plan to qualify for community development grant funding. Now therefore be it resolved that the Chippewa County Board of Supervisors does hereby adopt the attached citizen participation plan forwarded to the county board by the Economic Development Committee.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve?
So move.
And that's Supervisor Nicholson? Nicholson?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Is there a second?
McMiniman, second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Now we're open for discussion.
You want me to talk on it, Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
This is obviously a continuation of the previous resolution. We have to pass the plan in order to qualify for the grant. And again, Craig's on the line if you have any questions.
Any questions from the board? None, I will call the...
I think I unmuted myself.
Okay, there you are. You're good.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Have you figured it out?
All right. Okay, so then at this time, I will have the
No question.
clerk call the roll, and those in favor say aye.
Supervisor Michelson,
Aye.
Supervisor Shipman,
Aye.
Supervisor Kervina,
Aye.
Supervisor Eisenhuth,
Aye.
Supervisor Ives,
Aye.
Supervisor Hunt,
Aye.
Supervisor Hull,
Aye.
Supervisor Steele,
Aye.
Supervisor Sikorsky,
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt,
Aye.
Supervisor McMiniman,
Aye.
Supervisor Thornton,
Aye.
Supervisor Hauser,
Aye.
Mr. Chair,
Aye.
14 aye.
Okay, 14 aye passes. Okay, item number 3, 10-21, resolution 10-21. I will have the clerk read the resolution.
Resolution 10-21, resolution to support increased funding for aging and disability resource centers from the state of Wisconsin.
Carolyn Kaiser
Now therefore
has left the meeting.
be it resolved that the Chippewa County Board of Supervisors does hereby support the following increases in the 2021 to 23 state biennial budget to ensure access to critical services provided by ADRC's Wisconsin's aging and disability populations, providing an additional $27,410,000 in GPR funding to the state's ADRC, providing additional funding to expand, equalize ADRC services across the state to do the following: expand dementia care specialist funding state
Andy Bauer
has left the meeting.
$3,320,000. Fully fund elder benefits specialist statewide, $2,300,000. Expand caregiver support and programs, $3,600,000. Expand health promotion services, $6 million. Expand care transition services, $6 million. Fund aging and disability resources for tribes, $1,180,000. Fully fund aging and disability resource support systems, $2,650,000. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be sent to Governor Tony Evers, DOA Secretary Joel Brennan, DHS Secretary Designee Andrea Palm, the state legislators that represent Chippewa County and the Wisconsin Counties Association, forwarded to the County Board by the Health and Human Services Board.
Has joined the meeting.
Okay.
Supervisor Ives makes a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay.
Supervisor Hall, second.
Okay. So Supervisor Steele made the second before. So we have a motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
Want me to speak?
You want to speak on?
Yeah.
We'll have the county administrator speak on.
Yep. This is County Administrator Scholes. I do have Tim Easker, Health and Human Service Director, on the phone, and I'm not sure if I'm going to have Leslie, the ADRC, talk on this or not. But I will say what I know about this is it sounds like this has bipartisan support in Madison, according to WCA. It does sound like it has a good opportunity. I don't know if we'll get fully funded, but at least partially funded. And that doesn't happen very often. So that's what I know about this, and I'll turn it over to you, Tim.
Thank you, Randy. Yeah, you're right. I was going to have Leslie Pajelkowicz. She's put a lot of work into putting this data together, and if Leslie's on the phone, you could take it from here.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you, and good evening, everybody. Basically, this resolution really is, I guess you could say, additional funding for the ADRCs is long overdue. Since we became an ADRC in 2008, we have not received any additional funds despite a 35% increase in the number of people over 65. That doesn't even take into account the number of people with disabilities and other people that we serve through our office. One of the things that's caused problems and why you'll see that there is a large dollar amount attached to this is because ADRCs, when they were funded in Wisconsin, they rolled out at different times. And because of the funding that was available to do that, we have huge disparities in the dollar amount on a per capita basis. So the first generation ADRCs received more money than the second and third, and the second generation received more money than the third on a per capita. Chippewa County is a third generation, so we are actually funded at the lowest possible level, and that creates a lot of problems in Chippewa County. But quite truthfully, across the state, all ADRCs are underfunded because we've not received any increases at all in our funding since we began in the early 2000s. I guess that's really the gist of this resolution, is to really send a message to Madison that we need to do something to help support our older people and people with disabilities in terms of accessing the services and the programs and getting help with even the privately funded things. So that's what it's about.
Okay. That it? Okay. Any questions?
Supervisor Hunt.
Go ahead, Supervisor Hunt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm looking at the resolution on, line 96, where it mentions DHS Secretary Designee Andrea Palm. I believe she was replaced by, who is this? Karen Timberlake?
Yes. Thank you for mentioning that. I forgot to mention this. When this started through the process, it was Andrea Palm, and then it is just when it was forwarded, that's on me. It should be Secretary Designee Karen Timberlake.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you for catching that.
Hearing no other questions, then I will have the clerk call the vote. Those in favor say aye.
Can I ask for clarification? Do we have to make a motion to change that on that, or just
I don't
consider
believe
a typo?
It's in the minutes. There's
Okay.
should be fine. That's a
We'll make that change.
that doesn't affect the resolution.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, we'll call the vote.
Supervisor Ives?
Aye.
Supervisor Hunt?
Aye.
Supervisor Hull?
Aye.
Supervisor Steele?
Aye.
Supervisor Sikorsky?
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Aye.
Supervisor McMiniman?
Aye.
Supervisor Thornton?
Aye.
Supervisor Hauser?
Aye.
Supervisor Michelson?
Aye.
Supervisor Shipman?
Aye.
Supervisor Kervina?
Aye.
Supervisor Eisenhuth?
Aye.
Mr. Chair?
Aye.
14 ayes.
Passed unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item number 4, Resolution 11-21. I will have the clerk read the resolution.
Resolution 1121, resolution to support an application for a community development block grant for the development of a tiny house community in Chippewa Falls to provide housing for the homeless in Chippewa County. Now therefore be it resolved that the Chippewa County Board does hereby support the application of the City of Chippewa Falls for a community development block grant, coronavirus response grant for the development of a tiny house community. And be it further resolved that the county administrator is authorized to sign the attached letter of support for the
has left the meeting.
formally support the application by the City of Chippewa Falls, forwarded to the county board by the executive.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
Chuck Hull.
Has left the meeting.
Supervisor Shipman, motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Supervisor Hunt, second.
Okay, motion.
Has left the meeting.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Motion's been made and seconded.
You want me to speak?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. I have Jessica Olson-Bew, the housing director, on the phone, and she can speak to this. Jessica, you want to go ahead? You're muted, Jessica, or we can't hear you.
*6 to unmute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
We're good.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Randy. Yep, I'm Jessica Olson-Bew, Executive Director of Chippewa County Housing Authority. I also joined the Board of Directors for Hope Village about 7 months ago. So just to give a brief overview of what we're talking about here. So Hope Village is a local nonprofit organization that was created in 2016 to address the need for emergency shelter in Chippewa County for individuals and families experiencing homelessness. They do this in a cost-effective way by providing temporary housing in the tiny houses that are currently located in conjunction with some
Has joined the meeting.
in the city of Chippewa Falls. So Hope Village has recently purchased 2 vacant lots, and they will soon be closing on a vacant oral surgery building out on Kennedy Road in the city of Chippewa Falls. And so the goal is to move the tiny house village out there, among other things. So the city of Chippewa Falls is sponsoring a community development block grant COVID-19 response funding application in partnership with Hope Village. And we are asking that Chippewa County sign a letter of support that would be submitted with the funding application. So the program, since it would be located within the city of Chippewa Falls, but will serve residents of the full county, not just those who live in the city. The funding being requested would be used for the conversion of an existing oral surgery building to serve as a community center for county residents who are experiencing homelessness. The center will include bathrooms with showers, a shared kitchen, living room and school study space, office space, a meeting room, and laundry facilities as well. The grant would also support the infrastructure, including a driveway, 10 concrete pads for the tiny houses, electrical hookups, and sidewalks. In addition, the grant would support the installation of infrastructure to the property adjacent to the center, so the 2 vacant lots, to include water and sewer laterals, electric, things of that nature for the eventual construction of affordable rental units on the property. And finally, the funding would also support motel vouchers for Chippewa County residents who are homeless and who are not able to be housed in the tiny house, either due to capacity with there being 10 houses or eligibility of the individual or family. So that's the grant application and proposed activities in the shorthand. So I would certainly be open to any questions. I also have Mike Cahoon and Ruth Rosenau on the line as well from Hope Village to help if you have questions that are outside of what I can answer.
Go ahead.
This is Randy Schultz, County Minister. Jessica, obviously the city had to go through a long process, I would assume. I don't know if there was rezoning or, applications. Where is it with the city, this whole process, including the grant application?
Yes, good question. So this was quite a process. So the city has approved rezoning of the 2 vacant lots that were previously zoned for highway commercial, I believe, and now are approved for use for multifamily units. So they approved the rezoning. They've also approved a conditional use permit, a plan development conditional use permit for the project. And most recently, last week, they had the second and final public hearing for and did approve then the special use permit that was required for this project as well. So there has been a lot of process steps that have been taking place, and everything is approved, including the submission of the grant application for the CDBG coronavirus funding.
Thank you.
Supervisor Sikorsky.
A project like this, when you read both, really is the dynamics of a neighborhood. And I was just wondering, has the immediate local residents accepted this? Has there been any, conflict over these issue?
Sure, good question. Recently, there has been a little bit of controversy. So some neighbors are in strong support. For example, HSHS spoke in favor of the project, and they represent Prevea over there as well. The property next door has had some. There's a building there, and some tenants in that building. So there's a Subway, Cook Chiropractic. I believe Edward Jones. So in that property, there was some concerns, and so they, want to be sure that things like fencing are in place.
This is Supervisor Hull.
Go ahead, Supervisor Hull.
Just like to make some comments as well. I am also on the city council, so I've been familiar with this whole process, which has been very thorough. And we have held public hearings both on the rezoning and on the special use permits and the conditional use permits on this. And the support was overwhelmingly positive. And as she indicated, there were some concerns of the business owner there of just how it might affect their business. But that's that's about the only concerns we had. There's also a slight amount of concern by one of the larger business owners. Just they've been there for 40 years, and it's an industrial type situation, and they make noise 24 hours a day, and they don't want to be a bad neighbor. And there's a slight concern of what residents might think with that. But other than that, it's been pretty thoroughly vetted.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board or questions? This is Supervisor Gullickson, and I'll make a comment that is kind of disturbing because I support personally helping the homeless and whatnot. But in this grant application, there's a portion in there that I have to initial and sign off. It says, well, we want a policy that we will not have law enforcement use excessive force on nonviolent civilian protesters, which this is the second time now I've seen this. This is highly, highly offensive to our law enforcement community. And we have 3 members of this board who spent their careers in this field. 2 of us, I know for sure, have been trainers for the Department of Justice. And this has been standard operational training for decades. And it's, again, I find it highly offensive. And so my comment is made so that the people that are working for our county are doing a great job in this, can pass this on to the folks who are putting together these grant proposals. Because we've already voted on this once. And, again, for those of us in law enforcement, this is a highly offensive portion of this grant. Thank you. Okay, at this time, I will have the clerk call the vote.
Supervisor Shipman?
Aye.
Supervisor Kervina?
Aye.
Supervisor Eisenhuth?
Aye.
Supervisor Ives?
Aye.
Supervisor Hunt?
Aye.
Supervisor Hall?
Aye.
Supervisor Steele?
Aye.
Supervisor Sikorsky?
Nay.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Aye.
Supervisor McMiniman?
Aye.
Supervisor Thornton?
Nay.
Supervisor Hauser?
Aye.
Supervisor Michelson?
Aye.
Mr. Chair?
Nay.
96-99.
11 yes, 3 no.
Passes 11 yes, 3 no. Okay, number 5, 12, resolution 12-21, Mr. Administrator.
Got to read it and get them all.
Okay, well, we'll have Jackie read the resolution.
Resolution number 12-21, resolution to authorize continuation of the
Has left the meeting.
Workers' Compensation Insurance Program. Now therefore be it resolved that the Chippewa County Board of Supervisors does hereby resolve that Chippewa County will continue the self-insured workers' compensation program that is currently in effect and follow the requirements of Wisconsin Administrative Code DWD 80.60 Paren 3 and Chapter 102 of the Wisconsin Statute. And be it further resolved that the county administrator is authorized to forward certified copies of this resolution to the Workers' Compensation Division of the Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development and to take all steps necessary to ensure that this program is in compliance with all state statutes, rules, and regulations of the Workers' Compensation Program, forwarded to the county board by the executive committee.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve?
Mike Cahoon.
Has left the meeting.
Is there a motion to approve?
Supervisor Hunt, motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Supervisor Schmidt, I second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Go ahead.
This is a routine resolution that has to be passed every 3 years because we are self-insured. Basically, this states that we will follow all workers' comp rules and regulations. And again, it's a requirement from the state.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, then I will ask the clerk to call the vote.
Supervisor Hunt?
Aye.
Supervisor Hall?
Aye.
Supervisor Steele?
Aye.
Supervisor Sikorsky?
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Aye.
Supervisor McMiniman?
Aye.
Supervisor Thornton?
Aye.
Supervisor Hauser?
Aye.
Supervisor Michelson?
Aye.
Supervisor Shipman?
Aye.
Supervisor Kervina?
Aye.
Supervisor Eisenhuth?
Aye.
Supervisor Ives?
Aye.
Mr. Chair?
Aye.
14.
Okay, resolution passes unanimously. Okay. Item number 6, resolution 07-21. We'll ask the clerk to read the resolution.
Resolution 7-21, resolution to support the creation of the Chippewa St. Croix Rail Commission with counties and municipalities. Now therefore be it resolved that the Chippewa County Board of Supervisors does hereby support the creation of the Chippewa St. Croix Rail Commission and agrees to commit the necessary resources and individuals for the development of an intergovernmental agreement and bylaws for the creation of a transportation commission that will oversee the implementation, creation, and continuation of passenger rail service in the Chippewa Valley and St. Croix Valley of western Wisconsin. And be it further resolved that Chippewa County commits to development of a transportation rail commission upon the ratification of a resolution of commitment, the same or similar to this resolution, by at least 8 of the 13 following governmental bodies: Eau Claire County, Chippewa County, Dunn County, Pierce County, and St. Croix County, in the village of Baldwin, and the cities of Eau Claire, Chippewa Falls, Altoona, Menominee, New Richmond, River Falls, and Hudson. And be it further resolved that the county clerk send a copy of this resolution to the clerks of the aforementioned counties and municipalities, forwarded to the county board by the Economic Development Committee. We did have a motion and second from the previous meeting on this item. I believe that over, right? And that was, the motion was made by Supervisor Hunt. The second was made by Supervisor Michelson.
Okay.
Speak?
Yes, go ahead.
I do have Scott Rogers, or was on the phone when this meeting started, I believe. So hopefully you're there, Scott.
I am here.
Good. From the Rail Commission, you'll give a brief presentation that starts on page 77 of your packets. Go ahead, Scott.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman Gullickson, members of the Board of Supervisors, Mr. Schultz. My name is Scott Rogers. I am currently serving as chair of the West Central Wisconsin Rail Coalition. I'm also the Vice President of Government Affairs at the Eau Claire Area Chamber of Commerce. We appreciate the opportunity to speak to this tonight, and we apologize for not being present at the January meeting. That was a result of a misunderstanding, so we're appreciative that we can be here today. About 4 years ago, the Chippewa County Board passed a resolution supporting the concept and goals of establishing passenger train service in the corridor. That resolution is on pages 91 and 92 for reference, as well as the presentation that was given at that time about the project by Dave Christensen, who was serving as our volunteer executive director of our organizing council. Today, I'm going to give you a brief update on several key points of progress since that date, and explain the role of having a regional commission to represent the public interest in an anticipated public-private partnership to start the service. And I'll be as concise as I possibly can. As Mr. Schultz mentioned, on page 77 of your packet is the presentation we made to the Economic Development Committee in January. If you take a look at that, there's a map there, and on the lower part is the mission of the coalition that was founded by several business and education leaders a few years ago, basically with the economic development imperative of seeking this kind of transportation for economic growth for our region. If you move to page 78, there's some metrics and demographics there, including major institutions of higher learning that explain the reasons that our region can justify having that kind of service. And as you move on to page 79, we have had over the intervening years studies by the Wisconsin DOT, as well as by the federally chartered Gateway Corridor study that showed that there would be adequate ridership and interest for having these services available. In fact, during the Gateway Corridor study about 10 years ago, Chippewa County was active in that as well. If you move on to page 80, we have had in the intervening years in the mid-2010s, the corridor included in state rail plans officially by the state DOTs of both Minnesota and Wisconsin. And so as we moved forward from there and sought to move the project forward and look what was happening, really one of the, as we move to page 81, as our communities and employers have dealt with the increasing long-term workforce challenges and the need to attract and retain talent, that's really come as the forefront to try to get this kind of transportation service to our area. You see a quote there from Royal Credit Union, who cited talent attraction and retention as a reason for working with us on this project. And as we see other economic developments in our region, such as the recent good news about HPE staying in Chippewa Falls and growing here, that this is the kind of asset that can help us attract talent to this area to staff those kinds of organizations. So that led us at the bottom of page 81 to what strategy we use going forward to apply innovations like public-private partnerships, which was just getting rolling when you heard from Dave Christensen 4 years ago. If you move on to page 82, we just have some illustration there, conveying some of the things we learned as we went through this process, examples of development around station sites where the economic activity and increase in real estate value supports the service. That's called value capture. We've also seen where commissions and authorities in other places in the country have provided strong coordination, cost effectiveness, and sound management for these kinds of services. They also provide eligibility for things like state and federal funding, which can be an important part of getting grant funding, which can be an important part of getting services started. Page 83, we have another map there of the prospective route for the service and the station stops that would be included. And we went to Omaha and met with Union Pacific in the last couple years. They own the tracks. They've made significant investments in track and signals, and are interested in providing access to their tracks as a business proposition, which is an important part of the project. Tentative service plan is to have 4 trains a day on convenient schedules each way, which is what's in the Minnesota rail plan. And for people traveling on the train, they would be able to take advantage of Wi-Fi, comfortable seating, beverages, refreshments, et cetera, to use that time productively rather than having to drive. On page 84, we just have some examples of some of the other progress. We have been working to have a private partner who would take on the operation and marketing of the service and be motivated to keep costs low and to increase revenues and ridership. Corridor Rail Development from Chicago is who we're currently working with, and we are nearing an agreement with them. And then West Central Regional Planning Commission also created for us a white paper on some of the ideas that we could apply on that value capture concept that we talked about earlier. So page 85 really brings us to where we are right now. Next steps, we are completing our due diligence and confirming an MOU with that private operator. The railroad, Union Pacific, has also asked us to complete a capital needs and capacity study And then creating the Chippewa-St. Croix Rail Commission is an important step, and I'll talk about that momentarily. Wisconsin Department of Transportation has also come on board within the last year in an advisory capacity and will be doing so as well with the Rail Commission. Long term, the first phase of service we really see, as you see in the map on the bottom of that page, we really see it eventually going east to Milwaukee and Chicago, so we have major connections in other locations. And some of that may come sooner rather than later. Wisconsin DOT is working on a project for an additional train on the current route that would include a dedicated shuttle from Toma to the Chippewa Valley. And the Federal Railroad Administration is completing a major Midwest study of future routes that show Chicago to Twin Cities as one of the highest potential routes in the nation for a future true high-speed service. So as you look beyond this and other information that's here for your reference on pages 87 to 89, we do have our contact information there, as well as more information on pages 88 and 89 about the value of rail and why it is a growing and growing across the nation, and more is going on with that. And we want to be part of that as well. It also talks about how they help maintain mobility for the aging part of our population that may not want to have driving as the only option. And with trends like increase in people working from home, we have seen in our own area that there's increased interest in living in smaller communities, but still having access to the larger cities for those people who have to go occasionally to offices there. And we've even had interest, for instance, here in Eau Claire with Jamf Software, which has offices in both Eau Claire and the Twin Cities, and being able to have their visitors and employees go back and forth by train. So going to the resolution itself, just a couple points there. So it's on pages 73 to 76. In particular, if you take a look at the bullet points on pages 74 and 75, they really describe the functions of the Plan Commission. And if Chippewa County chooses to participate, it really puts the county at the table to make sure that good decisions are made that are in the public interest from your perspective. And as part of a regional effort, it helps to ensure that the needs of Chippewa County are taken into account. As we envision it right now, there's no cost except the time to be involved to participate, and certainly no further obligation of the county without actually coming back to you for permission or a future step. So the status right now, the commission will be moving forward. So far, Eau Claire County has agreed to facilitate its creation and administration initially, and we have had resolutions passed by the counties of Dunn, Eau Claire, and St. Croix, and the municipalities of Altoona, Eau Claire, Menominee, Baldwin, and New Richmond. And so we have had at least the 8 organizations or entities pass this. And just further information, West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning is putting together a brown bag symposium on March 16th for entities and others who are interested in this project to talk further about its implementation and what it can mean for communities. So I try to be concise here and brief given the hour, but I'd be glad to answer any questions or expand on anything else, and we appreciate the opportunity.
Any questions? Supervisor Steele?
Yeah, I listened into the Economic Development Committee meeting, and I listened in, and the question was asked, how much is this going to cost right now? And it was...
So as far as... Go ahead.
Well, I said, how much... Or somebody asked a question, I don't know who. How much is this going to cost us? He said, the only thing going to cost...
So for...
As of right now, he said, the only thing it's going to cost is the person to represent and travel back and forth on the development. And I
right.
really
this
like
is
that
go ahead.
word right now. I thought that was a little bit misleading. And then I just heard you say that this is not something to commit totally to the commission, us into the commission. Is that right?
So if you look at the actual resolution and the bullet points, those are discuss what the purpose of the commission is and the functions it would undertake. And primarily at this point, the commission is investigatory and coordination. So were it to take a larger role, certainly it would have to go back to the counties for it to have more authority and any other resources that would be asked for. But at this point, it's to give the public side of the equation the opportunity really to be involved, to coordinate mutually among those organizations the approach that they'd like to see and make sure the public interest is represented. The gist of what we are hoping to accomplish with this project, with the private partner and with the cooperation of the railroad, is that between the value capture efforts around the station sites, et cetera, what the private operators proposed to us, and what have been available in terms of grants like the Restoration Enhancement Grant from the Federal Railroad Administration, some of the capital grants, we are aiming to make this a effective and efficient service that would not require an ongoing subsidy. But there is a lot to be figured out there, and so this is really to take a reasonable and cautious approach to making sure we go into it with our eyes open and don't jump right into anything, but to give all of the entities along the line the chance to be involved in it.
So your answer is, if there's any more costs coming to Chippewa County other than financing, putting a representative over there, before any more cost is added to that, we in the county board would have to okay that. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you read the resolution, that's really all you're committing to, being involved in the effort. Yeah.
I like it. I like to hear it. I read it, but
certainly.
All right. Thank you.
And in fact, I'll just add that, Eau Claire County has agreed to handle the administrative side of this initially as well.
Supervisor Sikorsky?
I guess my thoughts are at this time is we seem to be the only one of this whole route that is leading this. I mean, didn't they actually propose this between Milwaukee and Madison, and that ended up never getting off the ground either? And I think if you look at our area, maybe the Minneapolis-St. Paul area is the destination, but the railroad station is not the destination. And you're comparing the travel times with a car to the station, and most people need to go further than that. And the society we are today really does not have the patience to wait for connecting rides and stuff. And when they can say, gee, I'll just drive there, it'll be faster, easier, and turn around. I hesitate that we may be placing a huge liability, future liability to the taxpayers by doing something like this, because if that ridership failed to take off, what happens? Somebody's got to pay for that train to run, and where would that money come from?
And those would be reasonable questions to ask before any, capital would be expended. It is reasonable to say we need to have contemporary ridership studies. What ridership studies have been done by people like Wisconsin DOT through the Gateway Corridor and others have indicated that there is promise there, that there is the kind of ridership that is possible. And you actually need a fraction of the total travel to make it reasonable. And certainly you want to make sure that you have answered that question before you expend significant capital to go forward.
Supervisor McMenamin here.
Go ahead, Supervisor McMenamin.
Not so much a question, just as a comment. And thank you, Supervisor Sikorsky, for that observation. I too share some of those same observations, and also just a thought that I've seen I-94 corridor between the Chippewa Valley and the Minneapolis-St. Paul area just grow and be improved over the years to the point where it's now 3 lanes for a section of it, and the bridges have been prepared to go 3 lanes in the future. At the same time, for the northern part of our county, Chippewa County, Highway 64 is under improvement and is being targeted and modeled for an express highway into the northern Minneapolis-St. Paul area. And then the I-90 corridor, I-94 to I-90 corridor between the Chippewa Valley, Madison, and then on to Milwaukee also has undergone incredible improvements over the years, with a large portion of that now being 3 lanes. I've used the shuttle service, the commercial shuttle service, on occasion from Eau Claire to the airport in Minneapolis, and I've never had to fight for a seat. Even that little shuttle bus, they're not filling it. And just as recently as this week, I followed the news story with great interest that another shuttle service operated by one of the airlines in the Minneapolis area, they're proposing to begin a shuttle service from the Chippewa Valley to the airport area also. And then, as you know, the airport area is well served by the light rail system in the Twin Cities area. So I'm just concerned that we may find ourselves one day competing for transportation dollars that seem the transportation needs have been launched, they've been begun, the backboard and the structure is there to enhance those. And this seems like I agree with what Supervisor Sikorsky said, that I don't know how satisfied people are going to be at ending up from a rail station and then still needing to purchase transportation beyond that destination to get where they ultimately want to go. And thank you for all the work. It's an incredible presentation. I looked at your documents with great interest, and it's well done, and I appreciate that. And thank you for this presentation.
Well, I appreciate that comment. If it's all right for me to comment on that too, and I'll even put my Chamber of Commerce hat on and say that all of those things like highway improvements, additional shuttle services, keeping our airport in the Chippewa Valley are all positive transportation things that we need. And as we look beyond our Chippewa Valley and we look at trends around the country, and then we look at demographics like millennials or even the aging population that can't always drive, there are significant parts of the population demographics that will use things like passenger rail, and we have seen that happen in other parts of the country. So where it has been expanded and increased carefully, it has been successful. And we do have every reason to believe that we're going to be seeing more of that. And there's also the danger that if we don't move in that direction, or at least look into it, we could be left behind and be at an economic disadvantage as well.
Supervisor Hunt.
Go ahead, Supervisor Hunt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just would like to say I appreciate what my colleagues have discussed about the I-94 and their concerns as well. But on the other side of it, I have a senior in high school who very much delayed getting his driver's license. And that made no sense to me, knowing where we live, where everyone's relying on cars. There's no bus system, like public bus system. I know that there is, public transportation in Chippewa Falls, but, I actually, I assume that all cities had buses, but that's not the case. You'd be fascinated to know that folks his generation, they're relying on public transit and the Ubers and the ability to not have a car. Some of the students these days are just planning on going to bigger cities and relying on that public transit. And two, I grew up the daughter of a public administrator who was a transit administrator. So when I moved to Washington, D.C., I learned how to use the public transit system there. And there's very easy connections to those rail sites, to the stations. And then even in Germany, I lived in a very small farming village and was able to walk 3 doors down, catch the local light rail, and ride all the way from Germany to Switzerland. So I think having a seat at the table doesn't hurt anything. And as my colleague from up north said, the concern about what that's going to cost us right now, obviously that's not going to cost us much right now except for, meeting costs and, reimbursement for mileage or whatever. But before any big investments are going to be made, that's going to come back to us. So I support this, and I don't see any issues with at least having a seat at the table at this point. So thank you.
Supervisor Sikorsky?
Is there the ultimate goal of this was basically to connect Chicago to Minneapolis. Are there any sections right now being discussed, the plans, something finalized happening on any of that section between Chicago and Minneapolis, up to Milwaukee, Madison, up that way? Is there anything happening anywhere else?
There are a few things going on. The Wisconsin and Minnesota DOTs are currently looking at adding additional frequencies on the current service where they have the long distance train so that they're more reliable. There are some issues with how much can you expand the tracks and capacity along the Mississippi River for environmental reasons. And so there's thought that when you go to higher frequencies and have something closer to a true high-speed rail, which we are seeing happen in other parts of this country and will likely come to the Chicago Twin Cities route, that a route along I-94 has a high probability of being the best route. And so part of that is, positioning ourselves to be on that route when that happens so that we have a stop in our area. So there are things going on in that regard. Also, the state currently is working to increase the number of trains between Chicago and Milwaukee. That has been very successful, and they're working on moving from 7 to 10 trains per day on that route after COVID.
This is Supervisor Hauser.
Go ahead, Supervisor Hauser.
I think a key phrase that was used a few minutes ago was look into. And before we can make any of these decisions that we're speculating on, we need a thorough investigation. And I think that's what this resolution is offering, is a chance to explore, to look into it, and then, given some more facts, then make a decision about where we move forward. So I would support this resolution that we simply look into it and join the coalition and have a seat at the table.
Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Schmidt.
I would concur with a couple of last comments made, is why wouldn't we want a seat at the table? The track is already there, and see what the feasibility is and what the studies show. At that time, worry about the details. Right now, we don't know enough to make a good decision, yes or no. We need to sit at the table and listen to the presentations and ask the question. In my opinion.
Okay. Any other supervisors? I will make an observation. I see the Amtrak route runs basically parallel to this, just into Minnesota, which is a high-speed rail compared to, I think, what we're looking at here. And this has been...
Sorry, point of order.
And this is...
Is the chair supposed to hand over the chairmanship before he makes a comment? I'm asking parliamentarian.
Say what?
Hear what she said.
Could you speak up again? The corporate counsel was able to...
Yes, I'm sorry. This is Supervisor Hunt. Just a point of order. I'm curious, and this is the second time it's happened, but is the chair supposed to hand over his chairmanship before he makes a comment or discussion?
It's allowed to. The chair's allowed to discuss.
Yeah, the chair is allowed to discuss. And that's what this is. The observation.
Okay, that wasn't my understanding. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And the observation I have is that we already have an Amtrak faster rail system, basically paralleling this just into the state of Minnesota. And I've also been familiar with this. This is not a new issue. It's been around for well over a decade. And in fact, I've watched it closely because when this first came out as a presentation, it was said that the Milwaukee to Madison was the most viable section. Yet the cost factor ended up nullifying that section. Many of our rail systems going between the cities have to be highly subsidized because the user group that would look at using them is typically a lower income user. And so if they're looking at a $35 ticket and then they're looking at parking fees and transportation to the depot, and then they're looking at parking and transportation fees from the depot to their destination, for those people to afford that, in other entities, that has to be highly subsidized. So, this for some of the board members, this is a new issue. It isn't. I understand the speculations and whatnot, but I don't run my business on speculation. I run it on knowns. And I think we're a long ways from the knowns. I think there will be a day that this will probably be viable. I really don't see it in the near future. And I would have to echo with Supervisor McMinimum. I'm very well aware of the Highway 64 improvements to make a corridor, 4-lane highway into Chippewa County, and just north of that, Highway 8, which would not come into Chippewa County, but it'd come in north of us. So that'd be 3 major transportation arteries from the Twin Cities to here. And the last issue that I would bring up, because I am familiar with the St. Paul rail yards, how in the world are we going to get from St. Paul to Minneapolis in that spaghetti mess down there? Has that, by the people who are working on it, have you figured out, is there any way that that's going to be addressed?
Chair Gullickson, was that a question? Did you want me to answer that?
Yes, Scott, that was for you.
Okay, thanks. You mentioned you were making comments, so I didn't want to speak out of turn.
Yep.
The long-term plan is to go to Minneapolis, and there are a couple different sets of tracks between St. Paul Union Depot and downtown Minneapolis. And Minnesota DOT does have that in their long-term rail plan, and that certainly would be our desire. There is a direct connection from Union Depot to the light rail immediately out front. And some of the things that you do with a service like this is you do make sure that there are connections available, and sometimes even a dedicated shuttle to reach other points from the station. So long term, that's absolutely the plan and what would be taking place. Right now, the current Amtrak route does run between St. Paul and Minneapolis. It doesn't stop in Minneapolis, but it does use the same tracks that you would use to get in between.
And the last comment I'll make is the same one I made at economic development, is that I'm aware of a rail system going from the Twin Cities into North Dakota, and I'm particularly know about the Devil's Lake connection because Woodland Resort out there actually had a shuttle from the rail system in Devil's Lake to their resort. And a few years back, I asked how that was doing. They said it had been canceled because they didn't have enough riders and the railroad could make more money on freight. So are we going to be competing with freight rates versus transportation rates with this route?
Chair Gullickson, that's actually kind of one of the breakthroughs with this because in many cases, the freight railroads do not want passenger trains on their tracks, but they have been very open to this because of the type of arrangement we're talking with them. And that's one of the things that makes it worth pursuing is that they would view this as a freight customer. The other thing that we sort of have a unique situation with is that they have made investments into this line in terms of the track condition and the signal system. They have the kind of signal system that is required for passenger service. So there are some things that have been set up for this to potentially be successful that in a lot of cases you wouldn't have maybe not even tracks or tracks that are in as good a shape as this one. So that's some of the things that makes it worth looking further into.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor
Supervisor Covino, go ahead.
You're talking about the tracks to be established. Are you saying that there is a possibility that you can use the same freight rail tracks as a passenger?
Yes, Supervisor, that most passenger trains run on freight railroads with a few exceptions where they're very high volume passenger lines. And it all comes down to what is the capacity, et cetera. Sometimes it's a few trains a day or even one a day. If you look in the Chicago area where they might have, even several dozen commuter trains on a line that often are also operating freight on those lines. So it's a case of managing the capacity just like a large airport would manage a lot of flights. You just need to make sure you have the facilities to handle what you need to have.
Thank you.
This is Supervisor Hull.
Go ahead, Supervisor Hull.
I would just like to also just indicate, so you know, this same presentation was done to the Chippewa Falls City Council, and the city had questioned things as well, and we decided that it just was not to our advantage to spend any money on it. And some of the reasons are, having the stations, like he says, having a station in your area is an economic impact possibly, and if things come, and having the connections are great. None of those will ever occur in Chippewa County. They're not planned now, and they never will. And so the actual advantage to Chippewa County, especially as you get up into the county, I believe are just negligible. And I just think it's a waste of taxpayer dollars to start pursuing this.
Any other supervisors? Hearing none? Back. Okay, at this time then, I will have the clerk call the vote on Resolution 7-21. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Supervisor Hunt?
Aye.
Supervisor Hull?
Nay.
Supervisor Steele?
Nay.
Supervisor Sikorsky?
Nay.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Aye.
Supervisor McMiniman?
Nay.
Supervisor Thornton?
Aye.
Supervisor Hauser?
Aye.
Supervisor Michelson?
Nay.
Supervisor Shipman?
Aye.
Supervisor Kervina?
Nay.
Supervisor Eisenhuth?
Nay.
Supervisor Ives?
Aye.
Mr. Chair?
Nay.
Six aye, 8 no.
Resolution fails. Agenda items for future consideration. If you have something that you would like put on this the county board meeting, you could speak up now. If not, you can always still get a hold of me. Try to get in at least a week prior to the next board meeting. Hearing none, then I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. No, we don't need to wait for a second too long in this. Okay, I'll have the clerk call the vote.
Supervisor Sikorsky?
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Aye.
Supervisor McMiniman?
Aye.
Supervisor Thornton?
Aye.
Supervisor Hauser?
Aye.
Supervisor Michelson?
Aye.
Supervisor Shipman?
Tony Holfelder.
Has left the meeting.
Shipman, aye.
Supervisor Kervina?
Aye.
Supervisor Eisenhuth?
Aye.
Supervisor Ives?
Aye.
Supervisor Hunt?
Aye.
Supervisor Hull?
Aye.
Supervisor Steele?
Aye.
Mr. Chair?
Aye. We are adjourned.
Aye.
Thank you.
Has left the meeting.